What if the difference between failure and success isn't talent or luck, but the small choices you make every day? Welcome to Great Mind Digest, where we uncover the simple truths that lead to extraordinary results. Today, we're diving into The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, a life-changing guide that reveals how tiny, consistent actions, done daily, can compound into massive success over time. It's not about doing big things, it's about doing the right things, over and over again. Chapter 1. The Hidden Power in the Mundane. What if the difference between success and failure wasn't dramatic? What if it wasn't about being born gifted, taking massive leaps, or making big bets? What if the real secret was so small, so subtle, that most people miss it every single day? In 1991, a struggling salesman sat in his living room, staring at a stack of unpaid bills. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't lacking in ambition. He just couldn't seem to gain traction. That salesman was Jeff Olson. Within a few years, he would turn everything around, not by discovering a shortcut, but by discovering a principle that had been hiding in plain sight. He called it the slight edge. It wasn't a tool or a tactic. It was a philosophy, a way of thinking about small choices, daily habits, and the compounding effect of consistency over time. And it would go on to quietly transform the lives of countless people, ordinary people, by showing them how the simplest disciplines, repeated over time, become extraordinary success. This chapter introduces that quiet revolution. Success is built on easy to do, easy not to do decisions. Here's the trap. Most people think success requires huge breakthroughs. They wait for motivation to strike. They chase complexity. But Olson dismantles this myth from the start. He argues that success and failure aren't the result of one moment, but the slow accumulation of decisions that are easy to do, and just as easy not to do. It's easy to go for a 30-minute walk. It's also easy to skip it. It's easy to read 10 pages of a good book. It's just as easy to watch another episode. It's easy to put $5 into savings. It's easy to spend it on coffee. Each of these actions seems insignificant in the moment. And that's exactly why they're so powerful. Because most people overlook the compounding effect of those tiny decisions. They think, what's the difference? And Olson answers, everything. The slight edge is always at work. Whether you realize it or not, the slight edge is already operating in your life. It's not something you turn on. It's always running, like gravity. The only question is, are you using it to move upward or allowing it to pull you down? There's no neutral in life. Every small choice is nudging you in a direction. Health, relationships, finances, mindset, it all compounds. The problem is, the effects aren't immediate. You don't gain or lose weight in one meal. You don't build wealth or go broke in a day. And because the results are invisible at first, people stop paying attention. That's when the downward spiral begins. Not from crisis, but from neglect. From letting small, seemingly harmless decisions pile up until they harden into patterns and then into destiny. Why most people don't see the slight edge? The truth is uncomfortable. People aren't failing because they lack knowledge. In fact, most people already know what to do. They've read the books, attended the seminars, heard the advice. They just don't do it. Not consistently, not long enough, not when the results aren't immediate. Olson points out a crucial flaw in the way society trains us to think. We're addicted to fast results, instant gratification, dramatic wins. We want six-pack abs in a week, financial freedom in a month, a thriving business overnight. But life doesn't work that way. Real lasting success is slow, silent, and unglamorous in the beginning. And that's why people quit. They don't see the payoff yet, so they stop just short of the breakthrough. The slight edge, then, is a call to trust the process, to keep showing up when no one is clapping, to believe that small disciplines, done daily, carry more power than bursts of intensity. The myth of the quantum leap. One of the most dangerous beliefs in modern culture is the myth of the quantum leap, that success comes from a massive breakthrough or a lucky break. Olson pushes back hard against this illusion. He reminds us that the people who seem to succeed overnight often spent years building quietly. making the same unremarkable choices day after day. The leap is never just the leap. It's the visible result of invisible commitment. Think about the bamboo tree. For the first 5 years after planting, there is no visible growth above the ground. But beneath the surface, roots are spreading, anchoring, preparing. Then suddenly, almost magically, in a matter of weeks, the tree shoots up 90 feet. Was the growth sudden? Number, it was happening all along. But only those with patience and faith in the process see. The harvest. That's the essence of the slight edge. Quiet growth, relentless consistency, invisible preparation that leads to visible transformation. The difference between the 5% and the 95%, Olson introduces a simple but sobering idea. In any given population, roughly 5% achieve sustained success in health, wealth, happiness, fulfillment, while 95% struggle, plateau, or give up. What separates them? It's not education, it's not background, it's not luck. It's the daily choices they make when nobody's watching, the small disciplines they stick to, the internal standards they refuse to lower. The 5% use the slight edge on purpose. They know every conversation, every dollar, every decision is either a deposit or a withdrawal. And they don't wait until it matters to take action. They act before it's urgent. They invest early, build slowly, and rise steadily. Meanwhile, the 95% either delay, doubt, or dabble. They make small excuses. They break tiny promises to themselves, not maliciously, just out of habit. Over time, those habits become chains. But Olson's message is not fatalistic. Quite the opposite. He argues that anyone can move from the 95% to the 5%, not by changing their life overnight, but by changing their approach to the next small choice. You are always choosing a curve. Olson introduces a visual idea that is both simple and profound. Two curves, an upward success curve and a downward failure curve. Every small decision puts you on one or the other. Read one chapter, you're on the success curve. Skip the gym again, you're on the failure curve. Invest in learning, success curve. Scroll mindlessly, failure curve. The catch is, both curves feel the same at the beginning. There's no immediate consequence, no immediate reward. But over time, the gap grows wide. So wide that you either live in freedom or regret. And you didn't get there by accident. You chose your curve, one decision at a time. The most encouraging truth in the book. At first glance, the slight edge seems intimidating. After all, if every small decision matters, how do you handle the pressure? But Olson flips it into empowerment. His core promise is this: you already have everything you need to succeed. You just need to do the little things. Over and over. You don't need more talent. You don't need a better upbringing. You don't need a lucky break. You just need to trust the principle. Simple disciplines, repeated over time, create success. Simple errors in judgment, repeated over time, create failure. And either way, time will magnify your choices. That's the great equalizer. You can start from behind and still win if you start now and stay consistent. The real magic, it's happening when it looks like it isn't. Perhaps the most powerful idea in this opening chapter is this: you're building your future even when it looks like nothing is happening. You don't see the benefits right away. You don't get applause for drinking water, waking up early, saying no to distractions. But behind the scenes, your identity is shifting. Your confidence is strengthening. Your momentum is compounding. And eventually the world starts to notice what you've been doing all along. People will say, "You're so lucky." They won't realize you've just been using the slight edge longer than they have. In the end, chapter 1 of The Slight Edge isn't just a wake-up call. It's a quiet revolution. It teaches that greatness isn't reserved for the few. It belongs to the faithful, to the consistent, to those who are willing to trade hype for habit and illusion for process. And as Jeff Olson makes clear, every small choice matters because nothing is neutral. You are always moving in a direction. The question is, which curve are you on? And what will your next small choice say about the life you're building? Chapter 2, The Choice You Make Every Day, Mastering the Slight Edge Philosophy. It's 6:15 a.m. Your alarm buzzes. You have a decision to make. You could hit snooze and get another 30 minutes of sleep, or you could get up, lace your shoes, and go for a run. No one's watching, no one's judging, no consequence in the moment. But here's what most people don't see. That moment is not small, it's directional. Every day, dozens of these tiny forks in the road appear. Eat the salad or grab the fries. Watch a TED Talk or scroll Instagram. Read 10 pages or skip the book today. On the surface, it all seems harmless. But under the surface, something much more powerful is happening. You are casting votes for the kind of person you're becoming. In this chapter of The Slight Edge, Jeff Olson takes us deeper into the power of everyday choice. Not the dramatic decisions, the small repeating ones. Because it's not the rare decisions that change our lives. It's the ones we make every single day without even noticing. The slight edge isn't a skill, it's a philosophy. Olson is clear. The slight edge is not about doing more. It's not about intensity. It's a philosophy, a way of seeing the Ixuii, world and philosophies by nature, shape behavior. It's the lens through which you interpret everyday actions. Brushing your teeth isn't just hygiene, it's a vote for lifelong health. Saying I love you to your spouse isn't just affection, it's a deposit in the emotional bank of your relationship. Skipping a task isn't laziness, it's permission for decline. This shift in perception is what creates transformation. Because once you begin seeing your small daily decisions as destiny makers, everything becomes meaningful. Ordinary moments become leverage points, and life becomes a string of purposeful, upward nudges. The secret behind all successful people. Olson writes, successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do, even when it doesn't look like it makes any difference. This is the principle that separates high performers from the rest. Not talent, not timing, but the invisible discipline of doing the right things, especially when they seem unimportant. Think of elite athletes. They stretch every morning, hydrate constantly, and eat with intention, not because they feel like it, but because they understand compounding behaviors. The rest of the world sees the medals. What they don't see is the years of mundane repetition. Olson argues that this principle doesn't just apply to athletes or entrepreneurs, it applies to everyone. The mother raising a child, the college student preparing for exams, the retiree building new habits. Every one of us is either feeding the success curve or sliding down the failure curve. And the difference? Philosophy, not effort. The painful truth. Neglect has a time delay. Here's one of the most profound truths in the book. Failure doesn't happen overnight. It sneaks up silently. Miss one workout? Nothing happens. Skip one healthy meal? No difference. Ignore one opportunity? No obvious loss. But let that pattern repeat over 100 days, and the cost is massive. This is the deception of neglect. It doesn't punish you right away. And that's why so many people let it in. It's comfortable, convenient, and painless for now. But as Olson warns, time will always tell. Because success and failure are both incredibly patient. They never shout, they whisper, and they always show up eventually. Consistency greater than intensity. We live in a culture that worships intensity. Crash diets, all-nighters, weekend hustle sprints. But the slight edge teaches the opposite. What you do consistently is infinitely more important than what you do occasionally. An intense week of effort might make you feel productive, but consistent action, no matter how small, builds actual momentum. Read 10 pages a day. That's 3,650 pages in a year, enough to read 15 to 20 full-length books. Walk 30 minutes a day. That's 183 hours of movement in a year, enough to reshape your body, clear your mind, and extend your life. Save $10 a day. That's $3,650 a year before interest. Enough to create a real emergency fund or start investing. Olson's philosophy turns massive goals into manageable actions. It eliminates overwhelm and replaces it with simplicity. Just do the small thing, today, and then tomorrow, and then the next. The slight edge versus the roller coaster life. Most people, Olson explains, live on a motivational roller coaster. They set goals when they feel inspired, take action for a few days, then quit when progress slows. This cycle repeats endlessly. Start strong, lose steam, get discouraged, quit, feel guilty, restart. But people who master the slight edge step off that roller coaster. They don't rely on mood. They don't need dramatic motivation. They understand that progress lives in the boring middle, where you do the work even when there's no applause, no breakthrough, no visible gain. They embrace the monotony of success because they know that success isn't an event. It's an outcome of rhythm, not rush. The real definition of discipline. Olson redefines discipline in a way that's deeply practical. Discipline is simply choosing what you want most over what you want now. This isn't about willpower or toughness, it's about perspective. When you zoom out and stay focused on the long-term win, the short-term sacrifice becomes easier. You don't eat the junk food because you remember your fitness vision. You don't blow the money because you see your investment goals. You don't skip the meeting because you remember the leader you're becoming. Discipline isn't about gritting your teeth. It's about protecting your future with your present. And every daily decision is a tiny act of future protection. How to activate the slight edge. Today, Olson doesn't just give a theory, he gives a direction. You activate the slight edge by embracing 3 truths. 1. Every small action matters. Nothing is neutral. Everything counts. This idea removes passivity from your day. Everything you do is either building you or breaking you, and that awareness breeds excellence. 2. It won't feel important at first. This is the trap. When you start the right habits, they don't feel powerful. That's exactly why they work, because 95% of people won't stick with them. Your edge is in your ability to persist when it still looks ordinary. 3. The reward will show up, but not right away. You don't plant a seed and expect a tree tomorrow. You water, you wait, you trust the process. This is not blind faith, it's evidence-based faith. The slight edge has worked for everyone who's ever used it. The only question is, will you trust it long enough to see it work for you? You're always building something. Even when it feels like you're stuck, you're not. You're building patterns. You're training your identity. You're creating systems of behavior that will define your next season. That's the secret. You're never not building. You're either building habits of strength or habits of stagnation. You're either investing in growth or reinforcing inertia, and all of it, every inch of it, comes back to daily choice. In the end, Olson leaves us with a sobering but empowering realization. Your future is not decided by luck, talent, or fate. It's decided by your slight edge philosophy. How you see the small things determines how your life unfolds. And the question isn't whether you'll use the slight edge. The question is, will you use it consciously, consistently, and courageously? Because the life you want doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives one choice at a time. Chapter 3. The Ripple Effect. How simple disciplines multiply over time. In 1972, NASA conducted a study on long-term habit change. They outfitted astronauts with vision-flipping goggles, lenses that turned their world upside down. For the first few days, disorientation reigned, but something remarkable happened around day 26. The astronauts' brains began to adapt. Their vision reoriented. Reality returned to normal, even though the goggles hadn't changed. Here's what's more interesting. One astronaut took his goggles off for just a day around day 15, and his progress reset completely. The study wasn't really about goggles, it was about consistency. It proved what Jeff Olson builds on in Chapter 3 of The Slight Edge. Momentum comes from unbroken patterns. And success, true, compounding, sustainable success, comes not from bursts of effort, but from continuity in small disciplines. This is the chapter where Olson fully unveils one of the most underestimated forces in human life, the ripple effect. That what you do today may seem small, but it sets off a chain reaction that echoes far beyond what you can see. The multiplying power of tiny wins. We're trained to look for big breakthroughs, to admire the dramatic. But Olson challenges that mindset head-on. He invites us to shift our attention from the size of our actions to the consistency of them. He writes, "Successful people don't succeed because they're lucky or particularly talented. They succeed because they form the habit of doing things that others don't. And these things are rarely glamorous. They're small, daily, repetitive, drinking water instead of soda, writing for 20 minutes a day, making one extra sales call, reading 10 pages of a meaningful book. These aren't life-changing acts in isolation, but repeated daily, they become life-changing. And that's the core insight. You don't succeed suddenly. You succeed gradually, then all at once. Time, your most powerful partner, or your silent enemy. Olson personifies time as the most faithful of partners or the most unforgiving of foes. The deciding factor? Whether your daily behaviors work for you or against you. Time does not discriminate. It multiplies whatever you feed it. Feed it distraction, and it multiplies disconnection. Feed it procrastination, and it multiplies regret. Feed it discipline, and it multiplies power. Feed it learning, and it multiplies mastery. Most people underestimate time because they only measure impact in the short term. But Olson reminds us, time is always compounding, whether you're aware of it or not. And every decision you make is a deposit or a withdrawal from your future. The danger of the invisible curve. One of the most dangerous features of the slight edge is also its most deceptive. Nothing seems to happen at first. This is why people abandon their goals. They start eating healthy for a week, and nothing changes. They meditate for 5 days and still feel anxious. They start saving money, but the account barely grows. Olson calls this the invisible curve. You're putting in the effort, but results don't show up yet. And that gap between effort and payoff is where most people quit. But here's the truth. Just because you can't see the change doesn't mean it isn't happening. Think of an ice cube sitting on a table at 29 degrees. You raise the temperature to 30, then 31, then 32, still solid, then 33, nothing. 34, 35. Suddenly at 36 degrees, it melts. Was that moment the breakthrough? Or was the breakthrough every tiny degree before it? The same is true for your growth. Keep going, especially when it looks like nothing is happening, because that's when everything is happening. The slight edge and identity, becoming versus achieving. This chapter isn't just about actions, it's about identity. Olson emphasizes a profound truth. What you do daily becomes who you are. You aren't just reading books, you're becoming a reader. You're not just saving money, you're becoming disciplined. You're not just eating healthy, you're becoming someone who values self-respect. Each repetition is a vote for your future self, and eventually those votes stack up to create a new identity. Success isn't something you chase, it's something you become, one quiet choice at a time. This insight changes everything, because it means that every decision, no matter how minor, isn't just about the task. It's about building your identity, and your identity, in turn, reinforces your behavior. It's a loop, a positive spiral, a compound identity upgrade. Emotional compounding, the mindset shift that fuels everything. Olson doesn't just talk about behavior. He explores mindset, specifically the emotional momentum that comes from consistency. When you do what you said you would, even in small ways, you feel proud. You build trust with yourself. That trust compounds into confidence. Confidence fuels courage. Courage fuels bigger action. The chain reaction is real, but the reverse is also true. Breaking your own commitments, skipping the gym, snoozing the alarm, quitting the routine, chips away at your self-belief. Over time, that erosion turns into apathy or shame. Olson argues that emotional compounding is just as important as financial or physical compounding, because belief is the battery behind all lasting change, and belief is built on daily proof. The compound effect in every domain of life. To bring the ripple effect to life, Olson walks us through every major area of human experience. Health: eat one fast food meal? No big deal. Eat it daily for 6 months? Massive damage. Walk for 20 minutes daily? Huge long-term gain. Finances: save $5 a day. That's $1,800 a year before interest. Invest it consistently for 10 years. Financial freedom begins. Relationships. Say I love you daily. Small act. Big return. Ignore connection for weeks. Distance builds silently. Career, show up 5 minutes early. Volunteer for one task. Follow up consistently. These tiny edges separate top performers from average ones over time. Mindset. Feed your mind with empowering content daily and watch how your perspective changes, quietly but permanently. Olson's message is simple. Small things matter everywhere, and when you multiply them by time, they matter more than anything else. The slight edge as a leadership principle. Leaders aren't born, they're built, and they're built through daily character deposits. People follow consistency, they trust integrity, and they respect those who live the values they talk about. Olson shows how the slight edge becomes a leadership superpower, not by charisma, but by quiet reliability. Do what you said you would. Be the same person when no one's watching. Keep showing up, even when it's inconvenient. This isn't glamorous leadership, it's earned leadership, and it creates influence that scales far beyond titles or authority. Turning the invisible into the inevitable. What starts invisible eventually becomes undeniable. That's the slight edge promise. The changes begin quietly. No fanfare, no finish line. But one day you look up and you're in a different life. You're healthier, stronger, more respected, more trusted. Not because you made one huge decision, but because you honored thousands of tiny ones. And that's the final point Olson drives home in this chapter. The ripple effect isn't magic, it's math. Every decision echoes. Every action compounds. Every day matters, especially the ones where no one is watching. So what's the real question behind the slight edge? It's not, will it work? It always works. The question is, will you stay long enough on the path for your ripples to reach the shore? Because in time, they will. Chapter 4. Mastering the Moment. Why present choices shape permanent outcomes? Picture this. Two friends start the year with the same job, income, and lifestyle. One decides to cut out soda and drink water daily. The other adds one sugary drink a day. Fast forward 3 years. One feels fitter, lighter, clearer. The other has gained weight, developed early-stage health issues, and constantly feels sluggish. What happened? It wasn't a single decision. It wasn't dramatic. But over time, those daily moments, those little, forgettable choices, took them in completely opposite directions. This is what Jeff Olson calls mastering the moment. In Chapter 4 of The Slight Edge, Olson brings us face to face with a powerful realization. Your life is not built in the future. It's built in the present, one decision at a time. And the mastery of these seemingly insignificant moments determines the trajectory of your health, wealth, relationships, and identity. This chapter isn't about motivation, it's about ownership, taking full responsibility for the moments that most people dismiss. The myth of later. We're taught to believe in someday, that we'll start eating better tomorrow, begin saving next week, work on that business idea soon. It feels comfortable, forgiving. But Olson shatters this myth with surgical precision. There is no someday, there's only today, repeated. Every time we say we'll do something later, we reinforce the habit of avoidance. And habits become identity. When later becomes a pattern, it turns into never. Olson urges us to trade the fantasy of the right time for the power of this time. Because every habit that's ever changed a life started with a single ordinary decision, made today. Every moment is a vote. In this chapter, Olson introduces a stunning metaphor. Each choice you make is a vote for the person you want to become. Choose to read instead of scroll. You vote for focus. Choose water over soda. You vote for health. Choose gratitude over complaint. You vote for joy, and every vote matters. You don't need 100% consistency to change. You just need to keep casting more votes in the right direction than in the wrong. This isn't about perfection, it's about direction. And every moment is a fork in the road, quietly asking, which way are you going to vote? The battle between easy to do and easy not to do. Olson repeatedly returns to one of the book's most powerful mantras. Simple disciplines are easy to do, but they're just as easy not to do. And this is the battleground of the slight edge, the mundane. Why do most people fail to build wealth, health, or resilience? Not because they don't know what to do, but because what they need to do feels too simple to matter. Flossing takes 60 seconds. Investing $5 is painless. Stretching before bed takes no energy. And so people skip them. They assume if there's no reward today, there's no loss either. But Olson's message is piercing. The reward and the loss both arrive eventually. And when they do, they come all at once. The moment to act is always now, because the future is just a long series of nows added together. How to become hyper-aware of micro-moments. Olson doesn't just explain the power of present decisions, he teaches you how to see them. Most people operate on autopilot. They don't realize how many times a day they make small choices that shape their future. This chapter challenges you to pause and pay attention. What time did you wake up today? What was the first thought you fed your mind? What did you put in your body this morning? How did you speak to the people you love? Did you reflect, plan, or just react? These aren't big events, but they build the foundation of your life. And Olson insists, if you want to change your life, start by noticing your micro decisions. Awareness is the first step toward alignment. Embracing the boring edge, we've been conditioned to crave stimulation, new hacks, new routines, new systems. But the slight edge reminds us, the boring things are often the right things. Waking up early, repetitive, eating clean, monotonous, working out, predictable, budgeting, tedious, reading daily, quiet. But these are the actions that lead to wealth, strength, clarity, and power. The ordinary becomes extraordinary, not by changing the action, but by compounding it over time. Olson urges us to fall in love with the unremarkable, because success is not the result of intensity, it's the result of consistency with the ordinary. Habits don't stick without identity. By this chapter, Olson is ready to connect habit with identity in a deeper way. He teaches that actions repeated over time become character traits, but only when we take ownership of them as part of who we are. Don't just try journaling. Become a reflective person. Don't just do workouts. Become a fit and energetic person. Don't just save money. Become a disciplined, long-term thinker. The key is not to stack habits. It's to build identity alignment. Because when your self-image aligns with your behaviors, habits become permanent. The slight edge and emotional intelligence. In this chapter, Olson makes a subtle but powerful turn toward emotional mastery. He explains how every micro-choice is also a moment of emotional reinforcement. Reacting to anger reinforces impulsiveness. Pausing to breathe reinforces control. Choosing to encourage reinforces optimism. Complaining reinforces scarcity. These emotional votes are just as important as physical ones, because mindset is built moment by moment, not in therapy sessions, but in traffic, in customer service lines, in setbacks, and in small frustrations. Olson wants us to become emotionally intentional, to respond, not react, to practice being the version of ourselves that our goals require. Winning the invisible game. The final insight of Chapter 4 is this: mastery is invisible. The world sees the results, your health, your success, your peace, but it never sees the moments that created them. Those moments, they're happening now. When you choose a 1% upgrade, when you vote for your future self, you win. Not dramatically, not instantly, but eternally. You reshape your identity, your path, and eventually your destiny. And no one needs to see it. No one needs to know, because you know. And that self-knowing, that moment of alignment, is the heartbeat of the slight edge. The real power of this chapter is its reminder that success isn't about ambition, intelligence, or even talent. It's about awareness in the moment, about seeing the fork in the road where others see a straight line, and choosing again and again to act in alignment with your highest vision. Because the person you become isn't forged in big events. They're built one moment at a time, and the next moment, it's already here. Chapter 5, The Secret of Resilience, How the slight edge builds unshakable strength. In a small town devastated by a flood, two shopkeepers face the same wreckage. One walks away, defeated. The other begins sweeping water out of the doorway the very next morning. 10 years later, one of them is thriving. The other never reopened. Same disaster, same resources, different result. What made the difference? Jeff Olson would say it was their philosophy, not their circumstances. Because resilience, the kind that outlasts storms and setbacks, isn't born in crisis. It's cultivated quietly in the mundane. And the slight edge is one of the most powerful philosophies for building that resilience. One micro decision at a time. In Chapter 5, Olson introduces one of the most critical layers of the slight edge philosophy, emotional endurance. The ability to stay the course when the process gets tough, progress feels slow, and life doesn't cooperate. This isn't about bouncing back quickly. It's about becoming unshakable slowly, by doing the simple things especially when you don't feel like it. Why most people quit on the way up. Olson points out a painful truth. Most people don't fail at their goals because they lack potential. They fail because they misinterpret the plateau. They start eating healthy and don't lose weight immediately. They start saving and the bank account barely grows. They build a routine and life interrupts it 2 weeks in. So they assume they're doing something wrong. Or worse, they believe nothing is happening. And that's when they give up, right before the curve would have started to bend upward. This is the central tragedy Olson confronts. Most people quit in the invisible phase of progress because it's not just effort that builds success. It's faith, the belief that what you're doing, no matter how small, is working, even when it hasn't shown up yet. The slight edge isn't about feeling motivated. If motivation were the key to success, the world would be filled with overnight winners. But Olson knows better. It's not about how you feel. It's about what you do consistently. He teaches us that real growth begins the moment we stop depending on emotional highs. The slight edge is a tool for building behavior patterns that don't require motivation. You do the work because it's who you are, not because it feels exciting. That's how champions are built. Not in moments of inspiration, but in moments of decision. The compound effect of showing up. There's an old saying, half of success is just showing up. Olson modernizes this into something sharper. All of success is showing up again and again, even when you don't see the result yet. This is what separates top performers from the rest. Not brilliance, not luck, not hustle. Consistency in the face of boredom, fatigue, and doubt. They keep showing up for the workout, for the meditation, for the writing session, for the budget review, not because of what they'll get today, but because of who they're becoming tomorrow. How adversity becomes a slight edge accelerator. Olson introduces a surprising idea. Setbacks are not the enemy. They are multipliers, if you let them be. When life hits you, financial loss, career setback, personal failure, it can feel like all your previous effort was wasted. But Olson teaches that adversity is part of the formula, not a detour from it. What matters is how you respond. Do you stick to your simple disciplines when things get tough? Do you return to the basics when life feels complicated? Do you remind yourself that the upward curve is still real, even through hardship? This response creates strength. It makes the next decision easier. And slowly, adversity becomes a refining tool, not a stopping point. Emotional habits are built like physical habits. Most people understand that physical fitness comes from repetition. What Olson emphasizes in this chapter is that emotional fitness works the same way. Respond with calm once, you build a little emotional muscle. Practice gratitude instead of complaint. You add another rep. Choose optimism over anxiety. You reinforce mental flexibility. These are all micro decisions. And like any other discipline, repetition hardwires them into who you are. Over time, resilience stops being something you summon. It becomes something you are. That's the hidden magic of the slight edge. It doesn't just change what you do, it rewires what you believe you're capable of. The no matter what standard. In this chapter, Olson introduces one of the most powerful concepts in the book, the no matter what commitment. It's simple. You choose a behavior that aligns with your highest vision, and then you commit to doing it, no matter what. Not just when it's convenient, not just when you're excited. You do it because you decided, because it's part of your identity now. Examples: walk 20 minutes every day, no matter what. Read 10 pages every night, no matter what. Save $5 a day, no matter what. Write 1 page a day, no matter what. This standard is what builds resilience, because it removes the negotiation, it silences the inner debate, it shifts your posture from trying to being, and that posture is powerful, because once you stop arguing with your own goals, you start compounding at full speed. Pain now or pain later. The inevitable trade-off. One of Olson's most thought-provoking insights in this chapter is this: there are two kinds of pain in life, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. One weighs ounces, the other weighs tons. This isn't philosophy, it's math. You will experience pain, but the slight edge lets you choose the type: the discomfort of waking up early or the regret of lost years, the resistance to tracking expenses or the pressure of debt, the awkwardness of honest conversations or the breakdown of relationships. When you commit to simple daily disciplines, you're choosing the lighter pain, the proactive pain, the kind that builds capacity and pays dividends. And Olson's message is clear: choose your pain consciously, or it will choose you. The emotional momentum curve. There's a powerful pattern that forms when you stay the course. 1. You start small. 2. You see no change at first. 3. You feel tempted to quit. 4. You persist anyway. 5. You get a small win. 6. Your belief expands. 7. You repeat with more conviction. 8. Your confidence compounds. 9. Your identity shifts. 10. You become unstoppable. Olson teaches that resilience doesn't feel like strength at the beginning. It feels like uncertainty you keep walking through. But every step builds belief. Eventually that belief becomes identity. And then it's not hard to be consistent. It's harder not to be, because this is who you are now. The slight edge isn't magic, it's mechanics. As Olson closes this chapter, he dismantles the myth that success is mystical. He insists, it's not magic, it's mechanics. You show up, you take action, you track the gain, you stay the course. And that's why the slight edge builds resilience, because it removes drama from the process. It replaces emotional chaos with repeatable rhythm, and rhythm is stronger than adrenaline. By the end of chapter 5, Olson has redefined resilience, not as a rare trait, but as a side effect of daily decisions. The more you align your actions with your vision, the stronger you get. Not louder, not faster, just stronger, quieter, unshakable. And when life tries to knock you off course again, and it will, you won't break. Because you've built your strength brick by brick, with every tiny invisible vote for your future self. Resilience, after all, is just the slight edge, under pressure. Chapter 6. Momentum. The silent force behind all success. A rocket uses over 90% of its fuel just to break free from Earth's atmosphere. After that, the journey requires far less energy. Once in orbit, momentum takes over. That's how success works. And in Chapter 6 of The Slight Edge, Jeff Olson brings us to the critical force that transforms effort into effortless forward motion: momentum. It's the tipping point when your habits, routines, and disciplines begin to carry you, where progress shifts from strain to rhythm. But momentum isn't luck. It's not a burst of inspiration. It's a reward, earned through consistency when no one's clapping, watching, or noticing. This chapter is where the slight edge stops feeling abstract and starts feeling powerful. What momentum really is and isn't momentum is often misunderstood. People think it's about speed or hustle, but Olson redefines it as something far simpler: compounded action that becomes self-sustaining. In the beginning, you push, you struggle, you wake up early, read, budget, exercise, reflect. You feel like a car trying to move through mud. But if you keep going, especially on the days when it feels pointless, you begin to shift from force to flow. Momentum is when, Waking up early becomes automatic. Eating clean becomes normal. Saying no to distractions requires no effort. Choosing growth over comfort becomes second nature. And here's what most people miss. You don't feel momentum begin. You realize it after it's already working for you. The compound interest of discipline. Olson draws a powerful comparison between momentum and financial compounding. At first, the gains are invisible. But just like compound interest, discipline rewards you exponentially if you stay invested long enough. Let's say you read 10 pages a day. For weeks, it feels slow, but by month 3, you've read more than most people read in a year. Your vocabulary sharpens, your thinking deepens. Opportunities begin to appear, conversations, decisions, clarity, all from what once felt insignificant. This is the core of momentum. Small things repeated long enough stop being small. They become force multipliers. Leverage, the advantage that most people never earn because they quit just before the curve steepens. Why breaking momentum is so costly? Most people underestimate what it costs to start over. They pause their good habits for a week or two and think, no big deal, I'll get back on track. But Olson warns, momentum is far easier to maintain than to rebuild. Every break has a cost, not just in results, but in emotional friction. When you stop a positive habit, you reintroduce doubt, guilt, resistance. The next attempt feels harder. The behavior feels foreign again. That's why top performers guard their momentum like treasure. They don't negotiate with it. They protect it through storms, distractions, and setbacks. Because once you lose it, regaining it takes 10 times the energy. The slight edge curve accelerates with time. There's a hidden tipping point in every discipline, the moment where progress starts to move faster with less effort. Olson explains it this way. At first, you're pushing the boulder uphill. Every habit requires focus. Every action feels voluntary. Then slowly, the boulder crests the hill. Habits become subconscious. Results start appearing unexpectedly. And then, the boulder rolls by itself. Your job is now to steer, not push. Others start to ask, how are you doing all this so easily? But it only works if you stick through the slow, friction-heavy phase, the part most people abandon because they believe it's not working. Momentum loves simplicity. Complex plans kill momentum. Olson insists that simplicity is the engine of the slight edge. You don't need to master 12 habits at once. You don't need a bulletproof morning routine. You just need a few meaningful actions done daily without fail. That's the rhythm that builds flow. One workout a day, one gratitude entry, 1 hour of deep work, one act of kindness, one page of journaling. Not because each one is transformative, but because momentum compounds what you commit to consistently. This is why so many goal setters burn out. They overcomplicate. But those who master the slight edge, they win with boring excellence. Emotional momentum, fuel for identity shift. By now, Olson has made one thing clear. Success isn't just what you do, it's who you're becoming. And momentum doesn't just change your actions, it reshapes your self-concept. Every time you follow through, you earn a little self-trust. That trust builds into pride. That pride builds into confidence. And confidence becomes character. Over time, your inner dialogue changes. From I hope I can, to I think I can, to this is just what I do. This shift is monumental, because once the new identity sets in, momentum becomes effortless. You don't have to convince yourself anymore. Your habits now have emotional inertia. Protecting momentum. The 5 quiet killers. Olson outlines 5 subtle forces that sabotage momentum. 1. Overconfidence. Once results start showing, people get lazy, they skip steps, but momentum is fragile. Respect the routine. 2. Distraction. Shiny objects and urgent detours rob focus. Momentum needs consistency, not constant novelty. 3. Isolation. Going it alone works for a while, but eventually energy wanes. Momentum thrives in community and accountability. 4. Neglecting fundamentals. Success seduces people into forgetting the basics. Keep reading, keep reflecting, keep showing up. 5. Emotional drift. Without regular mindset calibration, old fears creep back. Stay grounded in gratitude, vision, and purpose. These aren't dramatic failures. They're slow leaks, and they only show up after you've built some progress, which is why they're so dangerous. What it feels like. When momentum arrives at a certain point, something shifts. Life doesn't get easier. You get stronger. Your habits, once clunky, now feel natural. Your vision, once blurry, becomes compelling. You feel pulled toward discipline instead of pushed. Experience fewer emotional highs and lows. Make aligned decisions without second guessing. Attract opportunities without chasing them. Start inspiring others by accident. And perhaps most importantly, you trust yourself. Not because of hype, but because of the quiet track record you've built. This is what Olson calls the internal arrival point. The moment when you know you're becoming the kind of person who gets lasting results, not just once, but always. Final truth. Momentum is earned, not given. Olson doesn't romanticize success. He reminds us that momentum isn't gifted to the talented or lucky. It's earned through thousands of invisible, tiny victories, often before anyone notices. And once earned, it becomes your most loyal companion. It cushions against failure. It accelerates wins. It rewires your identity. It attracts aligned people, ideas, and results. But it starts with one boring action, repeated. And if you keep going long enough, momentum will carry you places motivation never could. Because the slight edge isn't just about growth. It's about becoming unstoppable. Quietly, steadily, inevitably. Chapter 7. Mastery over time. Why the slight edge becomes your greatest asset. In Japan, there's a centuries-old craft called kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold. Instead of hiding the cracks, artisans highlight them, turning once broken items into something more valuable than before. The lesson? Time doesn't just pass, it enhances. And when paired with intention, it transforms ordinary actions into masterpieces. In Chapter 7 of The Slight Edge, Jeff Olson dives deep into the long game. This is where the philosophy moves beyond daily habits and begins to tackle a profound truth. Time is not your enemy, it's your greatest leverage. If you understand how to partner with it, time will turn your tiny efforts into unstoppable waves of progress. This chapter is about mastery, not just competence, not short-term wins, but the kind of lifelong strength that compounds invisibly until it becomes undeniable. Mastery is not intensity, it's duration. In a world obsessed with hacks, speed, and shortcuts, Olson offers a radical reminder. Mastery comes not from how hard you work, but how long you're willing to stay the course. Think about the masters of any field: musicians, athletes, entrepreneurs, creators. Most didn't start out as prodigies. They became exceptional through years of silent, deliberate practice. They practiced scales when no one was watching. They kept writing when no one was reading. They kept showing up when others lost interest. Olson emphasizes, the slight edge doesn't give you explosive transformation overnight. It gives you gradual, unshakable power, the kind that sticks. Because while most people sprint and collapse, the slight edge walker becomes unstoppable through sheer duration. Time multiplies everything. Time doesn't change what you do, it magnifies it. This means a small, good decision made daily becomes powerful over decades. A small, bad decision made daily becomes destructive over decades. A neutral, passive decision becomes regret over decades. Time is not neutral. It's always moving, always amplifying, always collecting interest on your choices. Olson insists that your real power lies in this, using time on purpose. Not just letting it pass, but directing it with consistency, clarity, and alignment. That's how slight edge habits, once meaningless, eventually become your superpower. The 5-year truth. Olson asks a stunningly simple question in this chapter. If you kept doing what you're doing now, where would you be in 5 years? It's a sobering and empowering thought. Would your health improve or decline? Would your finances expand or shrink? Would your relationships deepen or fade? Would your mind sharpen or atrophy? The answer doesn't come from one major decision. It comes from the little things you're doing today, repeated without interruption. The 5-year truth is this: you're always headed somewhere, even if you're not trying. The slight edge makes sure that somewhere is aligned with your highest vision. Success leaves subtle clues. One of the most comforting insights Olson gives here is that success is predictable because it's governed by time and behavior, not luck. He teaches us to watch the clues. People with great relationships usually have consistent communication rituals. People in great shape usually have a simple daily health discipline. Wealthy individuals typically make small, boring financial decisions consistently well. The signs aren't loud, but they're there. And the message is clear. If you want long-term success, stop chasing intensity and start replicating consistency. That's where the slight edge shines. It makes mastery a result of your calendar, not your charisma. What happens when you stack years of slight edge living? Olson offers a rare perspective here, a glimpse into what life looks like decades into the slight edge. Decisions that once required willpower become unconscious reflexes. You attract better relationships because your values are aligned and reliable. Your mind becomes sharper, more resilient, less reactive. Opportunities find you because you've become someone of gravity and trust. You live with peace because your life feels earned, not borrowed. This isn't about achievement for its own sake. It's about becoming someone who lives on their terms because you built that life from the ground up, and it started with actions so small they were invisible. Mastery has a rhythm, not a rush. Jeff Olson emphasizes one emotional shift critical to longevity: patience. We live in an impatient age. We want fast money, fast health, fast growth. But the slight edge thrives in a slower tempo. This is how mastery unfolds. Day 1 to 30, everything feels awkward. Month 1 to 6, you start seeing minor gains. Year 1 to 3, habits become part of your identity. Year 3 to 5, others begin to notice. Year 5 plus, you become a reference point for others. This rhythm removes the anxiety of speed. It invites you to play the long game. Not because you're settling, but because you're building something unshakable, avoiding the seduction of the plateau. Perhaps the most dangerous part of long-term growth? The plateau. You've made progress. You're feeling good. Results are steady, and that's when most people ease up. They start to drift. Olson warns us, mastery is not a final destination. It's a daily recommitment. You never arrive. You sustain. That's what separates professionals from amateurs. To maintain your slight edge, return to your rituals, even when you feel strong. Revisit your vision, even when you're winning. Reflect and refine, even when things feel automatic. This keeps you hungry, humble, and aligned. From knowledge to wisdom, Olson closes the chapter with one of his most mature reflections. Knowledge is knowing the steps. Wisdom is walking them for a long time. The slight edge moves you from learning to living. It helps you go beyond inspiration and into embodiment. And the longer you stay in that space, the more grounded and clear your life becomes. Wisdom isn't loud. It's not always exciting, but it's magnetic. And in a world of short attention spans and superficial progress, wisdom is the rarest and most respected currency. Time is your ally, your silent partner, your invisible builder. And if you understand how to pair it with the slight edge, you'll create something few ever do: a life of mastery built not by force, but by rhythm. Because in the end, it's not just what you do today that matters, it's what you keep doing every day for the next 10 years. Chapter 8, The Price of Neglect. How small errors in judgment lead to invisible decline. A man skips his daily walk because it's raining. Just today, he tells himself. The next day he's tired. The next week he's busy. A month later, the habit is gone. He didn't quit. He drifted. This is how people lose their health, ambition, relationships, and wealth. Not by making terrible decisions, but by repeatedly making small ones they think don't matter. In Chapter 8 of The Slight Edge, Jeff Olson reveals one of the most important and dangerous truths in personal growth. What you don't do matters just as much as what you do. And more often than not, decline doesn't feel like failure. It feels like nothing at all until the damage is done. The slight edge works both ways. Olson starts with a clear and sobering reminder. The slight edge is always working. The question is, in which direction? Every choice is a step, either toward growth or decay, toward strength or weakness. There is no neutral path. This is why small errors in judgment are so dangerous. Skipping one workout doesn't hurt. Eating fast food once won't ruin your health. Ignoring a savings plan for a week won't bankrupt you. But repeated day after day, week after week, those errors create invisible decline. You wake up one day and wonder how you gained 30 pounds, how your energy disappeared, how your dreams slipped from daily focus to distant memory. It didn't happen suddenly. It happened subtly. That's the trap. Why neglect is so easy. Olson offers a simple reason why people fall into decline. It's easy to sleep in, easy to skip the reading, easy to eat what's convenient, easy to put off that call, that investment, that journal entry. Neglect feels gentle, forgiving, innocent. It whispers, "You'll do it tomorrow." But Olson warns, neglect compounds just as fast as discipline, only in the wrong direction. Most people wait to correct course until there's a crisis, a heart scare, a financial collapse, a relationship breakdown. But by then, the curve is steep and recovery is hard. The slight edge, used poorly, becomes a silent saboteur, and it always starts with a whisper, not a crash. Drifting, the hidden cost of inaction. Olson introduces the idea of drifting, the slow erosion of intention. You don't plan to quit growing. You just stop paying attention. You get comfortable, distracted, busy. You delay small things. And then one day you realize you've stopped progressing. Drifting doesn't feel like danger. That's what makes it so lethal. You feel busy, not effective. You feel entertained, not enriched. You feel comfortable, not alive. Olson reminds us that comfort is often the mask of decay. And the only way to resist drift is to recommit to the slight edge, even when everything feels fine. The failure curve. Olson visually describes two curves, the success curve and the failure curve. They both start the same, but the failure curve begins to dip ever so slightly downward, not because of catastrophe, but because of consistent inattention to the basics. Poor decisions repeated daily, neglect of small disciplines, excuses that feel logical in the moment. Then suddenly the curve bends, not because of one huge error, but because the cumulative effect of dozens of small ones finally shows up. And here's the chilling part. You won't feel the failure curve until you're deep in it. You'll still think you're doing okay, right up until things fall apart. The psychology of excuses. This chapter digs into the way the human mind rationalizes neglect. Olson explains how excuses are often disguised as logic. I've been good lately. I deserve a break. This one time won't make a difference. It's not the right season to be disciplined. I just need a reset. These thoughts feel smart, but they're emotional smokescreens. Olson teaches that the most dangerous excuses are the ones that sound reasonable. And that's why so many smart people still drift. How to recognize. You're on the failure curve. Olson outlines subtle signs that your slight edge has tilted the wrong way. You feel tired, even when you sleep enough. You're reactive instead of proactive. You make promises to yourself you don't keep. You seek quick wins over steady growth. You consume more than you create. These aren't dramatic red flags. They're indicators of erosion. And if ignored, they become identity. That's the real cost of the failure curve. It slowly reshapes who you believe you are. Reversing the downward slide. The good news? The same force that built decline can rebuild growth. Because the slight edge always responds to direction. If you stop the negative decisions, even for a day, you begin turning the curve. Read a single page. Go for a walk. Make one difficult phone call. Reflect for 5 quiet minutes. Eat one clean meal. These aren't corrections. They're course adjustments, and with time, momentum returns. Olson's message is clear. You are never too far gone. but you must start now. Why the basics are everything. In a world obsessed with hacks, Olson doubles down on this truth. It's always the basics that make the biggest difference. People fall off the path when they chase complexity, but mastery is built on the relentless repetition of fundamentals. Health, move, hydrate, sleep, eat clean. Wealth, spend less, save more, invest early. Mindset, read, reflect, affirm, plan. Relationships, listen, speak honestly, stay present. You don't need breakthroughs. You need basics, applied daily. Neglect is a decision. Olson closes the chapter with a final reminder that shifts everything. Not choosing is still a choice. Every day in every area of life, you are either choosing slight-edge behaviors or choosing to neglect them. There is no standing still. And the more aware you are of this truth, the more powerful you become. Because the slight edge gives you a tool no one else can take from you. The power to direct your own decline or your own ascent. You are either climbing or slipping. The difference? It's never a big decision. It's what you decide to do next. Chapter 9. The Ripple Effect. How your slight edge choices shape the world around you. Imagine tossing a pebble into a still pond. You don't just see a splash, you see ripples spreading outward in every direction. What started as a tiny motion becomes a wave that reaches the edge of everything around it. Now imagine your daily choices are that pebble. In Chapter 9 of The Slight Edge, Jeff Olson reveals a truth most people overlook. Your small, consistent actions don't just change your life. They transform the lives of everyone connected to you. This chapter explores the profound, often invisible influence you carry. Your behaviors ripple outward into your family, your work, your community, and even generations beyond your lifetime. Whether you realize it or not, you are leading by example. And that example can either elevate or erode the people around you. Leadership starts at the micro level. Most people think leadership begins with a title, a role, or a grand achievement. Olson dismantles that myth. You lead others by how you live, long before you ever speak. It starts with the way you greet your family in the morning, the tone of your voice under stress, the way you keep or break your promises, how you treat waiters, coworkers, neighbors, the books you read, the choices you repeat, the discipline you maintain. You don't need a spotlight to lead. You need integrity in the small things, because others are watching, even if you never notice, especially your children, especially your team, especially your peers. They absorb your habits more than your words. The hidden power of modeling. Olson emphasizes that you are someone's model, whether you accept that or not. Your behavior teaches others what's normal. If you show up early, you teach commitment. If you dismiss problems, you teach avoidance. If you read daily, you teach self-investment. If you gossip, you teach that integrity is optional. And these patterns ripple outward. They move through homes, companies, schools, communities. One person starts working out and a spouse follows. One team member shifts their mindset and a culture changes. One student adopts discipline and lifts the standard for their peers. That's the slight edge in action, scaling silently through influence. The cultural impact of daily disciplines. Olson points out that cultural change never starts with massive revolutions. It starts with personal shifts, scaled across enough individuals who choose the slight edge. A workplace begins to thrive because a few people started honoring their word. A school becomes high-performing because a teacher decided to bring energy every single day. A family breaks generations of debt and dysfunction because one person chose to read, budget, and heal. These stories aren't headlines. They're not dramatic, but they're real, and they're far more lasting than the viral moments the world obsesses over. Olson wants us to realize the most important work we do is often invisible, but it spreads further than we ever imagine. Parenting, legacy, and the long-term ripple nowhere. Is the slight edge more powerful than in parenting? Children don't adopt what we say, they adopt what we repeat. They internalize how we handle money, conflict, time, nutrition, ambition, failure. If they see you reading, they believe books matter. If they watch you choose kindness, they believe it's strength. If they hear you speak gratitude, they learn how to shape their mood. If they feel you own your mistakes, they learn accountability. You're not just parenting children, you're shaping future parents, partners, leaders, and creators. That ripple might stretch 100 years into the future, and it starts with what you choose today. Your identity shapes their possibility. Olson offers a profound insight here. The way you see yourself gives others permission to expand how they see themselves. When you walk with confidence, not arrogance, others believe they can too. When you change your story from victim to creator, others begin rewriting theirs. When you refuse to drift, others wake up to their own sleepwalking. Your self-concept is contagious, and the better your slight-edge behaviors become embedded in your being, the more you grant silent permission to everyone around you to level up. This is how leaders are made, not by domination, but by demonstration. The workplace Ripple Olson highlights how the slight edge transforms professional environments without corporate mandates or motivational posters. It starts when one person takes ownership instead of placing blame, meets deadlines without being reminded, responds with grace instead of anger, exceeds expectations without seeking credit. This behavior sends a ripple through teams. Suddenly, others feel compelled to rise. Mediocrity becomes uncomfortable. Standards lift, not because of fear, but because of culture. This is why companies change faster when individuals shift behavior, not when rules change. The slight edge creates a new emotional tone, and that tone either pulls others forward or lets them settle. The ripple works in reverse. Olson doesn't sugarcoat this. Negative behavior also ripples. Cynicism infects optimism. Laziness dulls ambition. Excuses become team-wide permission. Blame replaces responsibility. He warns that we must guard not just our habits, but our energy, because every choice has a silent megaphone. What you do behind closed doors eventually echoes through your environment. The slight edge doesn't care whether you're influencing positively or negatively. It just amplifies your direction. You're always on stage. One of the most transformative realizations Olson offers is this: you're never off duty, not in a burdensome way, but in a meaningful way. Everything you do sends a signal about who you are and what others might believe is possible for themselves. And that's an opportunity, a responsibility, a gift. It means that your smallest, most private wins could one day spark someone else's breakthrough. The coworker who starts journaling because of something you said in passing. The friend who starts saving after watching your discipline. The child who chooses integrity because you modeled it when no one was looking. These are real, and you'll likely never know their full impact. Legacy. The final ripple. Olson brings it full circle by addressing the concept of legacy, not in terms of wealth or fame, but in terms of influence. When you live the slight edge long enough, your behaviors become part of your story. That story becomes your reputation, and your reputation becomes a guiding light for others, even after you're gone. Legacy is not built at the end of your life. It's built in your daily choices. Every moment of effort, presence, courage, and commitment becomes a ripple in someone else's life. You are someone's turning point, whether you realize it or not. You're not just changing your life. You're changing every life that touches yours. Every action you take is a message to the world. This is what's possible. The slight edge doesn't just build success, it builds a legacy. Chapter 10, Living the Slight Edge, a way of life, not a life hack. Picture two people standing at the base of a mountain. One is searching for the helicopter, the shortcut, the quick ride to the top. The other ties their boots, leans into the incline, and starts walking, one deliberate step at a time. 10 years later, the first is still waiting. The second is standing at the summit. That's what the slight edge really is. Not a productivity hack, not a motivational technique, but a complete philosophy of life. In this final chapter, Jeff Olson doesn't just summarize the ideas, he elevates them. He shows us how to embody the slight edge, not just understand it. This isn't about tips anymore. It's about transformation, a life where every moment is a vote for the future you're building, deliberately, patiently, relentlessly. The shift from doing to being. At first, the slight edge feels like something you do. Read a few pages a day, Make that extra sales call. Say no to the donut. But over time, something deeper happens. You stop thinking about it. The actions become your default. The identity shifts, the effort fades, and the integrity takes over. You're no longer trying to be disciplined. You are disciplined. You're not managing time. You live aligned. You don't get back on track because you never left it. Olson emphasizes that living the slight edge means you've crossed from action into embodiment. It's no longer about behavior. It's about who you are. Success is never owned, only rented. One of the most powerful lines Olson shares. The rent for success is due every day. There is no permanent arrival, no final trophy, no finish line. The moment you stop doing what got you there, you start slipping back down the curve. That's why those who live the slight edge never become complacent. Their rituals aren't temporary. They're woven into the fabric of their lives. They reflect not just when things go wrong, but every day. Learn not just to pass exams, but because growth is the lifestyle. Train not just for summer, but for life. Give not just in crisis, but as a daily contribution. This is what creates enduring success. Not a sprint, but rhythm. Not a burst, but resonance. The slight edge is always in motion. Olson teaches that the slight edge is dynamic. It's always responding to your choices in real time. Every moment, you're either adding another brick to your future or silently dismantling what you've built. This realization is freeing because it means you're never stuck. You don't need a perfect day, a new year, a big leap. You just need to align this moment with your highest self, right now, then again tomorrow, and again after that. That's power, the beauty of the process. By the end of this journey, Olson reveals something deeper. The slight edge isn't just a tool for achieving goals. It's a way of experiencing life. When you live this way, time feels richer because it's filled with intention. Relationships deepen because you show up fully. Health becomes vitality, not punishment or control. Learning becomes joy, not obligation. Work becomes craft, not survival. It's not just about the summit. It's about the walk, the quiet, powerful rhythm of a life lived on purpose. This is the piece of the slight edge, the beauty of process over obsession with results, the invisible payoff, confidence, clarity, control. While others chase confidence in external wins, those who walk the slight edge build confidence through evidence. Every time you follow through, your belief grows. Every time you keep a small promise to yourself, you prove your worth. Every time you make a right but hard choice, your self-respect deepens. This internal architecture becomes unshakable. Clarity follows. You stop overthinking. You don't need every answer before you move. You trust the process because you've lived it. And that trust gives you what Olson calls quiet control. Not dominance over others, but mastery over yourself. Real freedom is earned. We all want freedom, financial, emotional, time. But Olson makes a counterintuitive claim. Freedom is the ultimate byproduct of discipline. The slight edge doesn't restrict your life. It frees you to live it. It eliminates chaos by replacing it with direction. It ends regret by stacking right choices. It reduces stress by multiplying small wins. People think freedom is doing what you want, but real freedom is doing what matters without resistance, because your habits already lead you there. Your life is a masterpiece in progress. Olson reminds us that greatness isn't reserved for the few. It belongs to the deliberate. He points to ordinary people who became extraordinary through small choices. The father who healed his health and inspired his children. The teacher who built a reading habit and transformed her classroom. The once broke single mom who saved $5 a day and gained financial peace. These aren't miracles. They're slight-edge lives. They didn't flip a switch. They turned a dial, day after day. That dial is still in your hand. The never-ending journey. As Olson closes, he offers one final gift, a new lens. From now on, every moment is no longer neutral. Every choice is a seed. Every action is a vote. Every discipline is a foundation. You don't need to overhaul your life. You just need to respect the power of today. and let it quietly pull you into your future. Because here's the truth. The slight edge doesn't guarantee perfection. It doesn't erase setbacks. It won't eliminate fear. But it gives you something stronger than all three. A path. A path that works. A path that lasts. A path that becomes you. This is the slight edge. Not a tactic. Not a phase. Not a secret. But a way of life. And the moment you commit to walking it, you are already winning. Quietly, powerfully, permanently. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback means a lot to us. If you think this information could be useful to someone else, please share it, because true knowledge is what's shared. To get updates about new videos first, make sure to turn on the notification bell.